Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Bowls Revolution podcast with me, David Coombs. And
Me, Terry Kennard.
before we start this week's subject, which is...
Oh, Angry Club Bowler.
That's not the subject, is it?
Well, yes, we're talking about Angry Club Bowler is
Etiquette.
etiquette. Yes, etiquette. He's
For want of a better word,
etiquette.
we're talking about etiquette. We better discuss the fallout, the feedback from the last episode. Can you go over that?
Well, I think on the whole, people were very sympathetic to our situation. Not only club-wise, but county-wise. I mean, we had a lot of feedback from people all around the county and further away, from Essex, who were in touch with us and were quite sympathetic as to and the way it had been handled by the powers that be. So, yeah, we had a lot of support for our Black Bottoms podcast.
Yes, we need to top that now. But I did have one word of caution from a gentleman called Brian, whose club are concentrating on bringing young bowlers into the fold. And he was concerned about the amount of wine in the podcast. He thought it was sending the wrong message.
Great Scott, some of these youngsters drink more than we do. Oh, crikey, that's the whole thing with youngsters these days, isn't it? I mean, we're not drinking a lot, are we, David, really?
But he's talking about 9-year-olds, I don't know.
Or maybe, yeah, but...
Same applies?
I think the same applies, yes.
Well, I thought there wouldn't be any trouble with it because
No.
it was being recorded after the watershed.
Absolutely.
But okay, there's a point. There was a lot of supping going on, so perhaps we should restrict ourselves to 2 sips per podcast.
Oh, okay. But this is rather a nice little tipple. Where did you get this from? It's rather pleasant. Stop giggling.
Right, now we ought to get on to the subject.
Yeah.
In hand, and you have something from an unnamed source.
Yes, we've had a text come in from an unknown source. I'm not quite sure whether it is male or female, but they're calling themselves the Angry Club Bowler. Now, we did ask on our last podcast if anybody wanted to, if there was an Angry Club Bowler out there, and I think there obviously is. The Angry Club Bowler, he says, I don't know whether it's a he or a she. The Angry Club Bowler is raging about etiquette on the greens. It enrages our bowler that people wander about in the head when the opposition's team's bowlers come to rest. He says, don't do it. When your team's bowlers come to rest, the possession of the head transfers immediately to the opposition. What bit about that don't you all understand? And he goes on to say, don't stand in the head looking to see if you've got the shot. Don't tell your bowler how far through or how short he was. Get out of the way for the next bowler. Crikey, don't upset the Angry Club Bowler. All your misdemeanours will be all over the internet. Anyway, whoever that was, thank you very much. And yes, it's a very valid point.
I suppose it is. But we don't want to get too technical about these things, do we?
Well, no, he's right in a way, because in the umpire's book of words here, and did you want me to do that?
Go on then, do a little bit.
Do a bit about umping?
Yeah.
Okay, right. It comes under, in the laws of the sport of bowls, it comes under annoy, interfere or distract. So, but really, in a way, you've got to think about this, because if you're having a nice game with your opposition, and perhaps they're wandering up to the head before their bowlers come to rest or whatever, perhaps if it's just a nice game, then you probably wouldn't say anything. If you're playing in a national or a county competition, it might be a little bit different. So it might really be annoying, interfering or distracting your play or your team's play. So on the first occasion, you could speak to the umpire, and the umpire will warn the player who is doing the annoying, interfering and distracting in the presence of his skip. If managers or coaches are present, then advise them that the warning has been given. But on each occasion after that,
Yeah.
the umpire should have the bowl last played by the offending player or team declared dead. If that bowl has disturbed the head, the opponent should choose whether to replace the head, leave the head as altered, or declare the end dead. So it's quite a serious misdemeanour, really, because you could put your team or your opposition team at a huge advantage and put your own team at a disadvantage. So, it's something just really that you need to look at.
Well, I guess people are dropping off at this point, but the revolutionary part of this is the fact that the more established players are revolting against the new players, new bowlers, who aren't learning the trade.
No.
And that's where we want to point out. We want to point out that people should be brought into the game from square one, so learn all these things. Otherwise, they tend to annoy people.
It does tend to annoy people. And I remember when I first started bowls, which was way back in Essex, many, many moons ago, I wasn't allowed to join the club that my mother belonged to because I was a working girl. Although I was in the police with a profession, I still wasn't allowed to join that club. I had to go and join another club.
I can't believe that bit. I just can't believe that.
Honestly, God's honour, it's true. And I'm going back to when I was about 28, 29, so it's some years ago. Anyway, I had to go and join another club, and before I even stepped on the green at this other club, I had to go to a lecture about etiquette and the basic rules on the laws of the sport of bowls, and I think that's set me up in good stead really for my whole of my bowling career. So
yeah,
perhaps it's something we ought to introduce at club level or local level.
Well, I played somebody last night, and I don't suppose it was. He was an established bowler because he was skipping against me, but probably not that he hadn't been playing that long. But what he was doing was I'd be walking up to the head to play my ball, having won the occasional end, and every time, about a minute later, he'd walk up because he wanted, taking his duties very seriously. He wanted to talk to his team, and so he inevitably followed me up about a minute later. So I'm standing on the mat waiting to bowl,
Right.
which was totally irritating. If I thought it was gamesmanship, I'd have given it back as much as I was getting, but I just think he didn't know.
No.
I didn't think that he was actually breaking the rules and annoying somebody in the process. He was keeping me waiting on the mat. It wasn't the right thing to do.
No.
I didn't bother with it.
It comes under annoy, interfere, and distract.
Yeah,
Did you win or lose?
lost.
Well, that really puts a different slant on things because if you had won, perhaps, well, either way you do it, it would look like bad sportsmanship.
Yeah.
But you could have just have had a word in his shell like and said, look, this is not really what you should do, and just explain to him rather nicely, what the proper procedure is, because as I say, it could go under this annoy, interfere, distract, and
Well, yes. I mean, I knew he was doing wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't think he did. I don't think it was gamesmanship in any way.
no.
So what do? You just ignore it, and it just irritates you. to
It
death.
does, but I mean, you could say to him, look, you could say to him rather politely, as if this goes on too many times. Look, I'm sorry, you're impeding my play. Do you mind either being behind the mat or behind the head when it's my turn to bowl? Because as your bowl comes to rest, as your team's bowl comes to rest, possession of the rink falls to the opposition. You could say something like that. It depends how you say it. It's no good losing your temper or because that goes down as bad sportsmanship. But perhaps a word.
Didn't you do this once in a game to a gentleman who took your advice, not as an umpire but just as a player?
Player, yeah. I was leading for you in a triples with Julia, I think it was, and there was a chap was in the head when their bowl had come to rest. He was in the head looking at to what his next shot was going to be or what he was going to tell his skip to do. And I said to him, "Excuse me, my bowler's on the mat waiting to bowl. Can you come out of the head?" And he looked at me and I said, well, it is the rules, you know. I'm very sorry to have to say this. It is the rules. And he said, I won't be told the rules by a woman. So, you know, and what do you say? It was just a league game. You know, you just sort of say, well, I'm ever so sorry, but that is the rules, you know. And I think I didn't want to get involved with an argument, but what do you do?
Well, at least we've moved on from there. The revolution already started, you know.
Well, there you go, yeah. Viva the revolution.
Right, I've got one, and we haven't had one yet. Hopefully we will get something shortly, but I've got one for your Get the Ump slot.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that happened to me the other day, and I had never come across it before. And I was, my lead through the cast his jack, and all of a sudden the mat was picked up and the opposite number picked it up and threw the jack. So I go striding up the rink to find out what's going on. And what had happened was that the mat was too close to the edge of the ditch.
I'm featuring Button, a Yorkshire terrorist.
Where was I?
Yeah. Oh, talking about the placement of the mat.
He hadn't placed it far enough up the rink, and so the opposite lead said, "That's not legal. I'm having the mat and going to cast the jack." Now he explained to me that I would have accepted that fully. I would have accepted that fully if he'd cast the jack into the ditch or it was too short. So I went with it. Now, what I want to know from you is, did I do the right thing?
Well, yeah, you did, because if outdoors you have the 2 metre sticks at the end of the rink.
Yes.
If you're in any way querying about the length of the jack, use the 2 metre stick. The front of the mat, you put the 2 metre stick, with the back of the 2 metre stick has to be adjacent to the rear ditch, which is the ditch behind you. And the front of the 2 metre stick at the other end, the front of the mat must be level with or in front of the end of the 2 metre stick. So it has to be 2 metres or more up the green. Now, indoors, it's not so difficult because you have the little tee. So the mat must be hiding the tee, if you like. It must be that much farther up the green. And you also have the marks on either side on the side ditches. So yeah, the mat must be 2 or more metres up the green. It's a great tactic, and it's something that really dedicated leads should know about, because if your opponent is not putting the mat in the correct place and you're losing on short jacks or long jacks, if your opponent is not placing the mat correctly, then you can lengthen or shorten the jack to suit your side, your team. So it's a great tactic. And it can be used as such. However, you must remember that this only applies if the distance after the first bowl has been delivered, nobody can challenge the position of the mat, not even an umpire. So you have to do this before the first bowl has been delivered. You have to check that. It's a great tactic for leads. And it's something that should be taught at club level, because a game can turn around on something as simple as that.
I think the point of this revolution is the fact that not enough is going on in clubs to teach new bowlers the essence of the game before they start. And I think this is what needs to change. You've got any views on that subject, by all means let us know. We would like a little bit more input if you can. Anything you want to talk about, particularly what clubs are doing as far as bringing bowls into the, what century we're in? 21st century. Time passes so quickly.
Yeah, we're old farts now. Oh,
anyway, where was it? I forget what I was saying now. What was I talking about? Oh, yes. What we're trying to find out and pass on through this podcast is what other clubs are doing to encourage either the use of their bowls clubs with other things to help increase revenue, any bright ideas that we can pass on to other clubs in England, Wales, Scotland and the world, because anybody can see this. That's what we're trying to do, and if you could help us so you don't get any more lectures from the umpire, then I'm all for it, really. Oh, God, sorry.
No, it's great. No, I think what we're going to do is put up a list at our club at the beginning of the season to see if anybody wants to do a little pre-season rules and etiquette course.
Yes, indeed.
And I think that probably that might be the way to move forward, because we've got a lot of new bowlers coming into our club, and what better way to get them into the groove
Than knowing what they're doing.
than knowing what they're doing, because the rules are not only there to keep the game running, but you can use the rules to your advantage, as we've just outlined.
Okay, right. Now, the subject for the next podcast, which I hope will be much more interesting, is...
Well, other clubs, what are you doing to change the face and pace of bowls?
Yeah, exactly. So we will be asking other clubs what they're doing, and if you want to send us in, as I've just mentioned without saying it again, please let us know. So I think that will do that. So it's time to say goodbye. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Cheerio, guys.
Your good health. Right. You had more than 2 sips.
And what have you got there?
Pardon?
What have you got in there?
I've got Ribena in here,
I want to taste
so
that.
I can have as many sips as I like.
I'd like to taste that, if I may,
No, you
please.
can't.
Why not?
I can't.
No, please.
No.
No, give it to me. Come along.
No.
David, I don't believe you.